So, Tuesday Club, Garry Moore. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Mayor and Councillors, and I can assure you I come with no church blessing.
What about the church?
Ask the last bishop if he's still got that blessing. Anyway, I'm pleased to see that this is in front of us at long last. I have a number of concerns that I wish to cover. The document states that the government has spent $14 billion in Christchurch. That is a gross figure, and if you take the amount of taxes and revenue that the government earned as a result of expenditure on repairing our city, I suspect that you as a council and the state have spent about the same amount of money. The second point is I have no faith at all in the financial assumptions in your paper. Bruce White will be covering this matter, but I recommend that you take a close look at the financial figures. How can you make any decisions without financial figures? Do you really know what the actual costs of what are being handed over right now are? And have you confidence that the numbers in the annual plan and long-term plan are sufficient? I would say that the estimates have not been subject to rigorous scrutiny. Having no financial documents is not the way to conduct public affairs. Which leads me to A. Section 77 of the Local Government Act states that you as elected reps are required to identify and assess all reasonably practical solutions. And that defines under Section 77(1) A, B, and C what you have to do as a council, and that is not covered in this paper. This is a section which was tested in the Council of Social Services and Christchurch City Council case in 2009. The High Court found that as well as failing to consult, that the council had failed to assess all reasonably practicable options, and that a thorough analysis of the reasonably practicable options was required. The report only presents one option that's in front of you. Madam Mayor, are you listening? You have to agree to a proposal, and no other options are identified or assessed. You are in breach of the ruling of the High Court in 2009. This puts your council in considerable risk of a judicial review. If I were sitting in your seats, this would cause me to pause and seek a further urgent legal opinion. B. Somehow this decision to be considered has been deemed of medium significance. I then checked Section 97 of the Local Government Act, and the section states certain decisions to be taken only if provided for in the long-term plan, and it covers about the decision to transfer assets. Then I checked your tests of significance policy. The relevant section for the test of significance says the degree of importance of the issue, proposal, decision or matter as assessed by the council in terms of its likely impact on and likely consequences for the district or region, any persons who are likely to be particularly affected by or interested in the matter, the capacity of the local authority to perform its role, and the financial and other costs of doing so, as described by the Local Government Act. Again, if I was sitting in your seats, I would not feel this item is of medium significance. The transfer of massive tracts of land in the red zone, coastal and in the Port Hills should probably trigger a special LTP consultative process, despite the council saying it has provided for the costs in the last long-term plan. I'm not sure whether or not the cost estimates are correct or not. I suspect not. But costs are only one part of this test. Who has assessed the capacity of the local authority to perform its role? I believe that the test of whether or not this matter is of medium significance has been made in error. I believe that the council will need to call for submissions on the likely impact or consequences of the land being handed over. A further test of whether these are strategic assets is covered in the City Council policy, where it states that assets are seen as strategic if they are part of all parks and reserves owned by or administered by the council. That fits it again. Then it states, where a strategic asset is a network or has many components, decisions may be made in respect of individual components within the network without those components being regarded as strategic. And the next bit is the interesting bit. Unless such decisions are considered to significantly alter the level of service provided by the council. Inheriting the whole of the red zone must significantly alter the levels of service provided by this council. In my opinion, if this recommendation is wrong, the elected council must consult the public on this strategic asset. 8 days' notice is not consultation. And fourth point, for the life of me, I cannot understand why your negotiators did not play hardball on the number of agencies which currently manage this city. They frustrate us all. All that's covered is about the demise of Regenerate Christchurch. Why didn't you advocate for one agency in Christchurch by the end of June next year? Why didn't you negotiate that this city wants DPMC and Otakaro gone by then? They cost millions every year. The government is going to establish an urban development authorities around New Zealand. This is an ideal time for this council to take control of what we need in this city, to control it down here and not be told by Wellington what they're going to do to us. So in conclusion, I'm not sure what the rush is for this settlement. I think the document in front of us is inadequate at best. It has huge shortcomings, both from a financial and legal perspective, as well as not providing options for you to consider. And again, if I were in your position, I'd be very worried about judicial reviews which could delay things even further. There have been a lot of really good people making submissions here today, urging get on with it. I applaud their interest and their commitment to our city. They aren't wrong. I just say make haste slowly and get it right. There will be time for all of their ideas to be implemented. Do not dismiss my arguments because you have a sense of urgency. I'm only here because I care about the long-term sustainability of our city. I'm concerned that the proposal as it stands has potential to put rates up massively, and central government needs to be playing its role to assist the ratepayers of this city who've suffered enough since the 2010 earthquake. I will finish by asking you all, is this a deal done? Or can we make a difference? Have you allowed sufficient time for today's submissions to be considered? Do you have sufficient time to make changes if you want to? Thank you. And by the way, I apologise, Chris Mackenzie was coming with me, but he's in a ministerial meeting.
Yeah, no, I had a meeting with him last week, so I've caught up with his views. Just to repeat, these are not submissions, they're deputations on the paper, which is being heard on Thursday. Sarah.
Thank you. I won't address the legal stuff. I'm sure that we'll get advice on that. But when it comes to taking more time, going back, renegotiating, those kind of things, what is it that you see we may have, say, leverage with? So we're not teachers, we're not the police, whoever. We can't just withdraw labour and put some pressure on the government, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that you see we would use as leverage that we don't have already that might encourage the government to think differently or put more in?
Look, first of all, I've got to say very few people are tragic enough to have read this paper. Okay, but if you get it wrong, a lot of people will take huge interest.
Absolutely.
And I'd say that I would be asking for the Crown to be showing us what their costs actually are and what their forward budgets actually were.
Yeah.
And you haven't got that in front
Okay,
of you.
but away from the financial stuff,
Well, the financial stuff
I
would
know,
be what
I know
kills you.
we want it, right? So then there's been due diligence on stuff being done.
Yep.
But what motivation can we use for the government to potentially give us more, if you like? Because they're clearly selling the story nationwide, and the cabinet are all kind of clear that, you know, they've spent 14 billion. We disagree with that clearly.
Yes, yes.
But what leverage is there that we can use?
First of all, I think we've got to put our minds into Megan Woods' position. She's a cabinet minister against a whole lot of Auckland cabinet ministers. And I think what you can be doing is by actually saying to the public of Christchurch, actually, we think we could have done better. And I personally, I don't agree with the way you've gone about it, a team of 4 people who were virtually not accountable until the document came in front of you, and I think that document's inadequate. And I think you need to be opening it up so that, in fact, more people can have input, because you will find there are a lot of people who actually are very concerned and will give great feedback.
So you think that's putting pressure on local MPs in the lead up to an election year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll wait till, yeah, okay. Right, so look, thank you very much. The time's up, but look, thank you for what you're doing at the Tuesday Club. It's, I mean, we don't always see eye to eye on issues, but
I'd be disappointed if
you
we
would be
did.
terribly disappointed if I agreed with everything that you said. But I do agree with the fact that having public debate around issues is important. But this is not a submission process, so it's a deputation process on a paper. The last time a paper of this nature came before council, it was done in PX before, back in 2013, and that's the issue that we're confronted with.
My argument is 2 wrongs don't make a right.
No,
don't think this
I
is
agree
right
with
either.
that, but I also think that it's important that we find a way of moving on. So anyway,